Man of a thousand hats here. Today I will be demonstrating to you the retort method for making charcoal. This is the method utilized by Vulcan Forge to produce charcoal out of just about any type of woody material. And today we'll be using a sweet bean mesquite that was hand felled and hand split by our proprietary wood processing machine, which is fueled exclusively by premium beer and Cheetos. Okay, so here we have the wood we'll be turning into charcoal today. I've just slivered it down into about 1 inch or so pieces. This is more than an inch wide, but it's like a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch thick. So these will be ideal for charring. I'm going to load them into my little blue bucket. Okay, this is the retort. 55-gallon drum. Wood goes in the top half, so from here up is a hollow cavity. Wood gas, baked out of the wood, travels up this pipe, down here, and down into the fire chamber. And we're going to knock it over so we can see what's going on underneath. Underneath, we have another hollow cavity. This is the same pipe that comes out, and there's a T. This is supposed to be a burner. Because I got clever and did not follow the instructions I was given, it does not always work the way it's supposed to, but it does consistently make charcoal. So I'll show you step by step how we're going to do this. I'll get this thing stood back up and we'll weigh out our mesquite, and when the process is finished we'll do another weigh out to see how much volume loss we've had. So y'all hold on 1 minute and we'll get things started. Alright, you should be able to see everything that's going on now, except you'll only be seeing my butt and legs. Alright. So, wrestle off this ring and loosen up this union here, which will require a motivation stick. Well, this is embellishing. Next step, we'll loosen this union here. Obviously needs to be oiled. There we go. All right. Now we're going to shovel the bare remnants of the last dozen or so chars out of here. It's not necessary, but I intend to reuse this as fuel. It's the little stuff that I can't scoop out by hand or that knocks off the side. Another little bit of handy cam work we're going to do here real quick. Sorry, here we go. This is the inside. This here is wood resin. It's what happens when you boil sap. It is the primary hazard of this charcoaling process, in that when you get this stuff on you, it will take about 3 weeks to wash off. And in the meantime, in between time, you'll taste like barbecue. You may wake up chewing on your own fingers in the night. It's it's a real problem. Now, we're going to do our weigh in. This is just a regular fish scale that I bought at the Walmart. And it looks like we'll be putting 22 pounds gross in there. So we'll go ahead and stack that in there like in a neatly order like that. Now it all has to fit below the level of the lid. But the more air cavities in here, the better. So I don't want to stack it in too neatly because the wood will actually insulate itself and create not charred spots. Okay, now just for the sake of science, we're going to weigh the bucket. The bucket weighs about, that looks like about 2 pounds. So we put 20 pounds of raw wood into the hopper there. Hopper is a good word for it. And now, I'm going to seal the whole thing back up. It is important that the whole thing be airtight because we're depending upon a gaseous transfer here. So it has to be tight enough that we don't have smoke and gas and steam escaping from this union. Had I built it according to the instructions provided by, I believe it's Two Rivers Forge, I wouldn't have this union here and I'd have a much larger cavity. But I built this when I had more limited space. I'll be upgrading here pretty soon. Okay, now the next step, bring this ring up. If you're going to attempt to build one of these yourself, it's important to avoid a 55-gallon drum that has a rubber seal in the lid, because the kind of heat that we're dealing with will just melt that rubber seal, and by the time you go to get your charcoal out, you won't have a rubber seal anymore. And you might not even be able to get it open. I don't know. I haven't tried it. Of course, because I'm filming it this time, it's going to be one time that the ring doesn't want to cooperate. There we go. A little bit of twisting, a little bit of finagling, and we're ready to go. More or less ready to go. To get everything nice and snug. And there we go. Now I'll grab this big honking wrench here. Tighten this union if we can. If we need I do have this thing suspended up off the ground so we can get an updraft going underneath it. But in addition to that, I have a front hatch where I put the wood in that I discovered was necessary for airflow. Turns out that updraft is not enough. Plus, you can't cram wood up under the rim of this unless you have it about 2 feet in the air. And if I'd been smarter, I'd have brought something with me. Ratchet wrench. But that would be the easy way. But it wouldn't be the cowboy way. Attribute that to Riders in the Sky, from whom I take my name anyway. Alright. Okay, I wish I could attribute this to precision engineering, but this just happens to be a piece of wire, which is exactly the right length and shape to do that and keep my fire pot open. Now, if any of you have ever wondered, there is a right way to start a fire. Actually, there's many right ways to start a fire. This is the manner that I prefer. It is best for cooking fires because the way we're going to do this isn't going to put any accelerant into the fire, which then in turn won't flavor whatever you're cooking, because it would take about 2 hours to burn all the diesel if you used diesel as an accelerant. I know this because I've had diesel taste on my meat before. Okay. So we're going to get one of these little Easter eggs going. After all, it's not required that you start this fire this way. I just prefer it because it's hard to keep accelerant around. There's a certain element of danger in keeping an accelerant around when you're going to be dealing with this kind of heat and whatnot. There, now we've got our little paper eggs on fire. Start adding small bits of wood. The other great thing about making a fire this way is when it starts to die and you blow on it like that, it almost feels like you're breathing fire. I know that's kind of nerdy of me or whatever, but that's the way I feel it. Just be able to just blow on a glowing ember and have flames come out of it. It's kind of a interesting experience. The key here is not to feed it too quickly. because you can snuff it out just as easily. But the cool part is going to be, once I get the fire actually going, it doesn't take long to have a roaring inferno in here. Gonna add some oak bark. Alright, we got a decent little blaze going in there. So I'm going to start adding this leftover charcoal stuff. Alright, it's still a little bit of a smoky fire, but it's catching. So I'm going to start adding some lighter stuff to it. Well, heavier stuff. What I've got there. This is just some somewhat rotted oak. It's a little heavier than the bark wood that we were using, but heavy enough that it'll burn pretty good while I get the rest of the wood ready to put in there. There you go, it's catching nicely. Now that I've got a pretty raging inferno going on under there, we come to the fun and interesting part. This is the part where I spend the next 2 to 4 hours feeding this hungry fire until I get the sign that the charcoal is done. These tendrils of smoke that you might be able to see coming from right there. There's other like little kernels of smoke that come out under that ring. That is the beginning of the wood inside the barrel beginning to char. Resin will stream down the sides, and when the smoke and the resin stop, I know that the char inside is done. Now you should be able to see the rivulets of moisture and resin that are pouring down around the edge of the retort. There's another look at our raging inferno. This is as close as I can get to it on this side because it's hot. So I'm going to go to town on this, and tomorrow morning when I open it back up, we'll have charcoal and we'll weigh that and check our volume loss, and then you'll know completely how charcoal was made. Alright, I stopped filming yesterday around 10:40 in the morning. It is 11:15 the next day, and we're ready to try to crack open this retort and see what the charcoal looks like. So I'm going to grab my trusty wrench because yet again I forgot to bring a socket with me. And start loosening this bolt on this ring. The full 24-hour process is not necessarily required. I do it because when I decided that I'm finished burning, and I think the burn's about dying down, I'll fill the fire chamber up almost all the way full with raw fuel and close it off and let it burn down slowly. I leave it overnight just because that's a convenient span of time, and because if you open the retort chamber, the charring chamber, too soon, the charcoal inside will have enough heat on its own. Once the oxygen touches it, it will flash ignite. Plus, all this is just too dadgum hot to be standing too close to when it's still hot enough to flash fry or flash light. Auto ignite would be the technical term. All right, so you can see some resin has built up around the ring, and resin has also built up over here. Over here, we've got a little bit of resin built up around the joint because my joint wasn't perfectly sealed. So, I'm going to grab the big old wrench and its jaw out just about as far as it'll go. Enough. Now, lefty loosey. Now this is the part that you're just not going to be able to stay clean during. So wear clothes you don't mind getting dirty. Alright, so now we're going to pry the lid off here. You can see all this resin built up on the lid. Now the problem with this being a closed system is that if water gets into your pipes anywhere, then it's kind of trapped in there. Anyway, so here's what's going on inside. Looks like we've got a pretty good even char. It might not be charred all the way through, but that's, from what I can tell, that's better for the food grade or cooking grade charcoal that I'm going for with this cook. So I'm gonna get out our bag. This is just a regular household trash bag. Unscented, obviously. Not because it'll do anything to the charcoal, because I'm a real man and I don't need scented trash cans or trash bags. But also, the oils in it could contaminate your charcoal, and you don't want your barbecued side of beast tasting like flowers. Anyway, so here's the charcoal. This piece is obviously not charred all the way through, but it's still charred pretty good. It's pretty dry. So we're going to toss that in the bag. The pieces that are charred all the way through, not this one, but where they are charred all the way through, there will be there we go. They'll be noticeably lighter in weight, and they'll be incredibly brittle. So, here we go. That is a piece of wood that's charred all the way through. Breaks almost no effort. So it looks like, apart from the outer edges here, we got a pretty good char all the way around. So this is going to be an excellent batch. So I'm just going to load it all into this bag as quick as I can. Then we'll weigh it, see how much weight loss there was. There's usually going to be no volume loss. If there is, it's not really worth noting. Anyhow, so let me get this all loaded up. We'll do a weigh. You'll see on some of these they'll have globs of the resin. That's fine. Now we're getting down to the smaller stuff. It's charred up better. As you can see, this is the stuff that was closer to the bottom. It is charred all the way through. So it seems like 20 pounds may have been a slightly heavy load. It seems to have handled it just fine. The resin is just going to coat the inside of the retort. Get the camera over here to show you. The resin kind of sticks to everything. It sticks inside the pipe, it sticks to the lid, and I thought for a while it might be plugging everything up, but I don't know for sure. Alright, so we got that done. Now we're going to grab the old fish scale. Same method we used before. Right at 10 pounds. And if you remember, we put right at 20 pounds, 22 pounds including the bucket. The bucket didn't go in there, so right at 20 pounds. So it's about a 50% weight reduction. But still, it's not a bad yield. So that's how you make charcoal using the retort method. This charcoal is perfectly safe for cooking or fuel or whatever. Just be aware that you are going to smell like barbecue for a while anytime you mess with this stuff, especially the resin. Well, that's been charcoal. This has been Man of a Thousand Hats. I'll see you later on down the road, and remember, there's no point in being pessimistic. It probably wouldn't work anyway. Well, this is embellishing.